Howdy, howdy. Alrighty. Hello, everyone. It's always like what will happen when this thing starts up. So if I seem surprised, my apologies. But hopefully everyone's doing good. Um, let's see here. Curtis and Sue, you should have your invites. Lori, let me know if you want to join in as well. I'm actually on my computer again. What's going on, Curtis?
What's going on, big guy?
Good to see you too.
Good to see you.
Absolutely. This is gonna be a good one. I already know it.
Thanks. Yeah, you didn't give me nothing. You just like show up. Let's do this. All right, I'm here. Hi, Susan. How are you doing?
I'm good. Do I need to go sit in my office as I look proper?
I think you look comfy, personally. So the truest answers come when you're comfortable. Did we lose Eric? There he is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I knew that you were going to start this stuff as soon as you moved to Vegas. You've been hanging out with David Copperfield, haven't you? Just disappeared. It was awesome.
My bad. I have to figure this thing out at some point. Anyways, how's everybody doing? Let's see here. I need to try to get this all this stuff going. All right, so I will make a quick introduction. We will jump into this. Jake, Lori, if you want to join in, let me know. We can get this thing going. Ron, it's good to see you as well. So I have two special people with me. They're actually special because they're really good talk. Gosh, you've been warned not to say certain things. No, I'm just kidding. But we have Sue. So most of y'all have actually met Sue before. She's been on here a couple of times. She is a realtor I want to say by day, but also she does a couple other things as well around just chef. You're a chef. You've been a chef. You've done a host of different things. I don't want to do her this justice, but she has a really unique perspective that I found when it comes to just understanding business, doing things as a founder in her own way, but then also more importantly, being authentic in how you interact with people. And so I find we share a lot of stories about just things. We're actually in the process of closing on a property that I had out in Alabama, and that has been a disaster. It's one of the reasons why I actually wanted to have this conversation today with a lot of people is understanding how do you get to the ideal customer, the ideal person that you're working with, and creating loyalty out of that person to give you the right feedback to help you understand. And this is for several people that are on here listening as well, about how do you find that ideal customer and ask them the right questions to get the right information. So that's Sue. So give her a chance to speak in a second. And then Curtis, another friend of mine, met him earlier this year. We just kind of struck up a really, really good relationship. And he's done the same thing. Both of these people aren't in tech companies, which is crazy. Both of these people are in more what I would consider as the trade services around things. Curtis is a salesman in some ways, but also has kind of built a brand around I'm not gonna say patio furniture, but selling things to people that people need and want and buy that are high quality, high ticket items. But most importantly, he's a relationship guy and someone that looks to really kind of dig in and help people understand where their problems are and how to connect them with the right people to solve their problems, which is really huge, especially when you're in the startup ecosystem. And we've been on several calls and journeys with lots of people in the past couple of months. And so so I wanted to bring them on to really kind of dive into as founders when we start to actually think about things. Jake, I'll definitely catch up with you for sure. When we start to dive into taking your idea and then going into it, how do you do that well? So I'll let them give a brief introduction and we'll jump right into the topics. And I'll start posting some questions that I have as well in the chat so we can actually build up some engagement there. And if anyone has any questions, definitely ask. But Sue, I'll let you go first for a couple of minutes, and then Curtis, and then let's get rock and rolling.
How do I get my business? Is that one of the questions?
Or just more who you are.
Well, how I get my business and who I am are probably the same thing. I just got off my bicycle. I've been delivering homemade banana bread around the neighborhood. Mass baked last night. Sent a big death by chocolate cake into my husband's office. And I basically have evolved into getting my business by doing whatever I want, wherever I want, however I want. And whoever comes to me, seeing if they've got anything. This is probably a bit brutal, but we've had a brutal week so far, Eric, and it's only Tuesday. Um, but basically, whoever interacts with me, I don't go looking for anything anymore. If it comes my way and it works for me, then I nurture it. And if it comes my way, for the most part, and I don't like it, I gracefully step aside, and I've learned to be quiet when I do it. You don't need to announce your exit, and I just wander off to the next thing. What do I do? I'm an avid gardener. I'm a chef. I've spent 30 years as a chef. I've been a broker for 23 years, so some of that's interacted because having to work around my husband's job and transitioning and whatever. I'm married to someone that has a big boy job, so somebody has to take the back seat, not always quietly.
No, not at all. But
And
she mentioned
go on, I'm a swimmer. Go on, what do you want to ask?
no, you said some things there. I wrote a couple now. I started typing. I wrote a couple down, but Curtis, go for it, and then I'm gonna dive into something that she mentioned around. There's a couple things there that I think Curtis, you actually might highlight the same thing, but yeah, go for it.
Yeah, that was awesome, Susan. Definitely a couple of gems in there. So my name is Curtis Allison, guys. Some of you might have seen me indirectly at some large shows all over the country. I've been peddling expensive, comfortable goodies all over this great nation for 2.5 decades. Sponsor shows like Bear Jackson, state fairs, large home shows. My wife and I started this journey for ultimate comfort living back 20 years ago, and we just building our brand. I kind of grown, went through and actually did things in a very untraditional way. So Eric has been so kind to offer his services and his insight to help us go from a very heavy load but big heart business to offering great products, going and setting up these amazing booths, setting them up, tearing them down, talking to hundreds, if not thousands of people at these venues. But the big thing that I think that I'm learning now that I'm in the tech world too, and invested in a technology company, knowing that the way that I was doing business was not, I couldn't do it anymore. It was just too much. So, and then looking at how I've been sleeping at the wheel, not building my online business, right? To really push the narrative and now, you've got Amazons and the Wayfairs, all these huge corporations that it's just impossible as a small little $4 million a year company with all these employees, all these families that I have to feel like we have to give them the opportunity to make money. We built this great brand. And so I kind of went backwards. I went through the back door. I invested into a tech company. I started, going through and meeting these great people and technologists and trying to learn what they did. And indirectly, kind of like what Susan said, the most amazing part about what I've been able to offer in this industry is being able to get to the real root of the problem, which is finding out what people's needs, wants, and desires are first, asking the right questions, or the hard questions, I would call it, for the right reason, and finding out whether or not I want to play with them or not, right? If I want to engage culture or get into that, then once I know who they are, 90%, 80%, right? You get people to talk about themselves and what they're doing, you can learn a lot more about them by their actions, by their facial expressions, by their tone. So now you get to see their passion, right? You push on those buttons. You figure out which direction they're going. And then once you find that individual, like when I found Eric, I mean, I pushed your buttons there, didn't I? I did. And within what I'd say probably 60 minutes to 65 minutes of our meeting each other, I had him on a phone with a manufacturer that could actually fix something that he had been having problems with for a year. And we're working toward building a product on one of his side projects. So my biggest thing is knowing all these individuals in 26 years, that knowledge that they gave me by asking the right questions turned me into this thing that I'm still trying to figure out at 48 years old, what I can do with it. It's not about the project anymore. It's more about the people.
And that's actually the thing. If the theme throughout this session is actually going to be more around the authenticity of the person, who you are as a person, showing up. That how do you get someone to say thank you so much? So I was having a conversation with Sue about some things in the past, like just dealing with things that we've done, and she mentioned this topic to me about how there's people that she's come across, whether it be contractors, whatever, and I've done the same thing, where you just treat them not because they owe you something, not because they're supposed to come and do work, but because they're a human being first. You treat them with such a level of respect that oftentimes people don't see anymore in the world. And that level of authenticity in the engagement creates this kind of response that comes back. That's like, they're like, thank you. And it's a genuine thank you because they know that they've actually been heard, recognized, understood, and they feel present in that moment with you. And that's important because as we get into being a founder and looking at startups, or not even like say founder, like, but if you're even working in a corporation, et cetera, or you have a small business, you're doing baking, you're selling patio furniture, whatever it is, when you interact with someone for the first time, showing up and being able to actually just be authentically who you are, not trying to get something out of them, but just engaging with someone, say, how are you doing? How's it going? To what Curtis said, like really asking some questions, genuine questions about the person. You can get more information out of them through that level of an engagement than if you just came in and said, hey, you know what? I'm trying to sell this new widget thing. Do you have a need for it? It's like most times it's going to be no. If you don't sell it, well, whatever. But it's one of those things of really looking at it from that perspective. And I'll go into some strategies that we can do as well. But Sue, go for it.
So I was at a broker meeting several years ago, and so I don't do a whole lot of business now. I still do probably. I'm probably still in the top percentile in my office, but I don't do what I consider a load of business anymore. Eric knows that I was the foreclosure agent for the major banks in this city, and it was a full-time job, 7 days a week, whatever. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about what I don't want to do too, but I learned a lot. But I was at this broker meeting where some guy was coming in, and my broker said, it'll pay you well to learn this. I don't want to be disrespectful. You can hear by my accent, I'm not American. And I'm definitely not from the South, but I live here in Huntsville, Alabama. And so the way of doing business here is all back rubbing, handshaking, and friendly. And I would say a big, maybe 7 out of 10, maybe 6 out of 10 transactions in my office, not mine, were having problems at the closing table. And I was like, why? Well, this came up and this came up. Okay, but why did it come up at the closing table? Why are you not addressing this up front? And the video furniture, my business as a chef was no different than what I do now. Because if you come to me with $50 and you want me to serve 50 people, we got nothing to talk about. And people say, you need to learn to negotiate. You got nothing I want. I'm not going to be rude to you unless you stop poking me, but you don't have anything that I can work with. So at this meeting, this guy was teaching you how to be a chameleon. And that if somebody came in, and they were this, and somebody came in and they were that, and I'm probably going to ride the line of what Eric finds acceptable here. But, they were like, if someone comes in and they're from the Middle East or they're Asian, they don't want to deal with you. And I was like, what do you mean? Because they don't want a woman in a place of authority. Okay, but this is my listing. And I understand your culture. I just was negotiating with a Chinese lady. I totally understand your culture. You're a foreign national. I'm a foreign national. Guess what? This is the way business is done here. I'm the vehicle by which you're going to achieve your goal. So if you don't want me, you need to go find somebody that's going to do what you do, because it isn't me. I can't do this. And I just can't do it. And this guy was like, no, you need to bend in whatever way they want you to bend to make the sale. Okay, but my approach to sales is very different than yours. And I did a lot of class with Alex Charfen, which is get the dirty done first. Get all the filth and the nasty and all the whatever up front. Because if they don't qualify, if they have no money, if their credit is bad, if this is that, they can be the nicest person ever, but you got nothing you can do with them. If they don't want to work with you because you're female or because of this or because you're old or because you're foreign. I mean, a lot of people say to me, oh, you're British. Okay, let's get that out of the way. Is it a problem for you? Because I can't change it, buddy. I can't change it. This is who I am. And so I would, so at the end of the spiel this guy was giving, I just said, you know what, if you start being a chameleon and bending over backwards, all you're going to have is a sore back. It's because you have no authenticity. You don't even know who you are. And at my age in life, I can't always remember what I told you. But if you tell me something that I know goes against who I am, I know I didn't say it. So if you only speak your truth, it follows you. And I will tell you, as little work that I do, last year I was still one of the top performers. And every transaction I did last year was their third, fourth, or fifth transaction with me in 15 years. So it may not work for the people that want to go out and play and only care if they sell one patio set or one cake or one whatever. I don't sell any of my cakes. I don't sell anything I make. I give it.
Yeah.
And you cannot order it. You cannot. I give it. And if you don't like it, it was free.
And there's a lesson in that. And one of the things is knowing the boundaries that you have as a person, but then also understanding how to qualify the people that you're engaging with. And that's an important thing, especially for startups and founders in general, qualifying the people. So I just put in there in chat, qualifying the people. There's a bell curve, and everyone tries to, like, it's funny, like we often, and I've done it myself, where it's like, oh, this is my target audience. Like, everyone fits this mold. And it's like, no, you have to segment down. And I've been having some chats with, I think, Colin, you're on there as well. So really good to see you on here. And Chris, is good to see you as well. Chris does this with his clients when he does dog training. And I've spoken to Chris a couple of times about this as well. But it's happening in every industry, where you should qualify the people that you're engaging with, so you understand how to engage with them. And the other side of it, what Curtis and even what Sue has mentioned as well, is also just being, again, sticking to who you are and not bending. I mean, it doesn't mean to be rude, but don't bend just because you want to sell. The same thing is true. Don't bend just because you want someone to download or do something or buy or etc. You actually should have a set of standards, but knowing the type of people you're going to engage with and being able to qualify where they are. In the bell curve, you have what's considered as the innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and then you have the laggards. Once you start to understand that, you then start to qualify how are people answering questions or engaging with you, where they fit. And if someone is a lagger or they're a late majority, if you have a brand new idea and they've given you habits of, hey, when do you have the latest iPhone? That's a good leading question. Do you have the latest device? That will tell you whether or not someone is actually open to something brand new, if they want to adopt or anything. When's the last time you made a big purchase? These are general questions, but these are also engaging questions, just to understand the person and who they are. Let them tell you a story. And again, none of these questions, I could be building a mobile app, but none of these questions are centered around my solution specifically. They're actually centered around just me getting to know the person for who they are. Also just asking questions, what is a problem that you have inside of X, and starting to really engage in those things. And I think that's something that, as we do that, we start to look at ways to identify type of people we want to target, especially if you're a new startup or a brand new idea. You want to target what's considered as the early adopters. Those are people that have a higher threshold of pain for something that doesn't work. they have a higher apt to giving you more information and insight, what's considered as feedback. They want to do those things. They're willing to do those things. And if you find the right people, they will actually jump on board with you and help you build the thing that you actually want to build. And they will do it for free. Like, you don't have to pay at all for that. And so these are things that we want to try to identify as we do that. But getting to this, how do we bring this into the thank you very much? Doing something for someone without expecting anything back. Curtis, you've done that so many times around. So
I wanted to mention, can I just say, Curtis, because I've got a story that would like interact with where you are, is like if someone comes, let's just go patio furniture. I bought some Southern Classics, and I bought it used. And there was this guy, he's a retiree veteran, young guy, special forces, disabled, starting up this powder coating business. And so if I came to you and asked you for something and it wasn't for me, I'd rather you tell me, you either can't really afford this, or let me know how much it is and I'll work out I can't afford it. And I'll come back to you when I can. And I tried to explain this to this guy, and he's like, well, I'll repowder coat your chairs for, let's just say $30 each. And I was like, where did he get that number from? Because it's like a tenth of what local companies are charging. Anyway, he did my whole set. He did all my patio stuff. So we did a photo shoot, and I sent it to him for free. And I said to him, you're way underpriced. Your work is outstanding. I bought this cheap little bench from somewhere to put it on the back of my neighborhood, which is a public lane. And I bought a cheap one in case it got stolen. But by the time he finished it, I mean, I didn't want to put it out there because it looked like, hey, come take me. And so what I said to him, why are you not getting the work? Because he's very genuine. He was really like, he interacted really well. And he said, well, you know, people come to me and they bought this piece from Hobby Lobby. Okay, they're not your client, bud. If they are trying to refinish something from Hobby Lobby and take it to, they didn't have the base. I'm not saying I had the best base with the Southern Classics, but it's a pretty good one. But if someone's paying $30 or $40 or $60 for a patio chair, there's no value in them having it powder coated. And you have lost your value when you try and prove yourself to something that's going nowhere, because these people don't understand who you are. They don't understand what you do. They don't understand the quality of what you're giving them. So if I put what he did for me against what you sell, it probably would stand up as one of, now he offers a 10-year guarantee with it, which is more than Southern Classics do. So what did we do? I put him in my newsletter. I put him on Nextdoor, and I did all the photo shoot on there. And everybody was, he said to me, what do I owe you? Well, if you know anyone want to sell a house, you can give my name, but you don't owe me anything, mate. What you owe me is you just served, 12 years of your life, and you have 100% disability. You owe me nothing. You owe me absolutely nothing. And it's a pleasure to know you. It's a pleasure to work with you. And I have nothing else that needs refinishing. But if I can be a voice in your corner, but let me tell you, your pricing is wrong. Let me run this through with you. Let me do a business plan with you. And he said, well, how much does that cost? Oh, I do that for, I'm trying to think of an appropriate word, something in giggles. You can fill the first blank in yourself. I do that because I want to. I do that because I've got no skin in the game. It's not my money. And I just want to work the viability of your project. And he said, how much do you think I should charge? I would say $90 for a chair as a starting place. Because now you can do a third of the work for the same money, or you can do the same work for 3 times the money. And now you can focus on your kids and your wife and enjoying the life that you're supposed to have. And it's only because you didn't have the business sense. To me, I don't know where this goes forward. It doesn't matter. The feeling, and Eric, this is Eric, the feeling of have done the right thing by this guy and being part of his success, even only sitting on the sideline, because I'm not living, I don't walk with him, talk with him, I don't interact with him other than that. there's nothing in this for me other than the joy of seeing some kid, because he's a kid to me at 34, getting what he deserves. And to me, that's a thank you.
Yeah, and it builds a relationship. And Curtis, you know this. I mean, we've interacted with several people. It builds a relationship where when you do call upon that person, when you do ask the person, they are so willing to do something for you without you like and going above and beyond. But it had to start from a place, right? It had to start from some interaction. And Curtis, I mean, I let you go for it and share how you've done with your business, right? So you've done things you work so. I know for a fact because you've shown me pictures, you've told me about certain stories, and I've went and seen them of people that we rub shoulders with now that they've done things like millions of dollars, et cetera. And there's just a phone call, even to the the manufacturer that we've even interacted with, like it was just literally a phone call, and it was like you were talking to your best friend, and I was like, how in the world? But it's because of that initial interaction
Family.
and bringing that value in and not creating something that is a transactional relationship, but a true, authentic, like human to human relationship. And those things create that where that person's now riding with you in a way. And I'll let you speak on that with Josephine if you want to.
Sure. No, there's, we all have a story. Everybody has a beginning. And I have a very interesting story. So, if you've ever heard, it takes a village, I'm that kid. Like literally, I am that child. I'm not going to get into my childhood,
Same.
but I had, through tragedy, had more adults and people that took more time with me and had conversations as a child, more like they were talking to my mom, right? So I was my mom's child that they didn't have anymore. So they took more time with me. And so having this plethora of family members and friends and community that helped build that, as I flew the coop and flew the nest, right? I had all these stories and all these different personalities that I took little pieces from. Some of them, not good ones, right? You go through your 20s. And my 20s were a wreck. I mean, I had fun. People loved me. I was entertaining, but there was no real substance because what I was giving to everybody, not whether they deserved it or not. And then I learned that the people that negative energy, when they find an unpolished ball of energy, if they can manipulate that and use that to their ability for their bad doings. And I kind of got stuck in this weird spot until I met my wife in my 30s. So when I turned 30, and I really started growing up at that point in time. But through the interactions, like what Eric's explaining, is that by really digging in, and it comes down to it. Even as of recently, within the last 3 or 4 years, I've gone as an extreme, and Eric can attest this, for my own purposes, actually more than the others, because I'm such a trusting individual, because I want to just give, I want to talk, right? I'm that guy. I'm a sales guy. I can't help it. If I have secondary information that's in here, most people don't share that 15 or 30-second blurb, right? Just like, but now you went way and above and beyond. Amazing, right? But even just 2 minutes of conversation of, hey, I know this fishing hole over here, and this person's going fishing not because they enjoy it, but because they can't afford groceries, and they can actually catch a fish every time they go there. Why? And not knowing or bringing up the negative aspect, but sharing that little tiny piece of information with this person that could change their family and their strength, right? Now, here's the funny part. You take that on a small level, a small person, not a small person, but every person's the same, equal. But now take that in business. Take that with a struggling, someone that's really good at this, but they're really bad at this. Like, there's this top corner up here. List down the 5 things that you do that you don't even think about. It's just natural. It comes out. It's just done, right? Those 5 things, everybody else in your world thinks, wow, they're a superhero. But to you, you don't really understand that because it's just something that you do. Then all the stuff in this corner, that's the stuff that you don't want anybody to know, right? You hide that from the rest of the world. You don't want them to know that you're that inept in that area. You can't fill the whole entire screen with being good at everything. So what's the fastest way to fill up that screen? Find great people. How do you find great people? You ask hard questions. Like Susan said, get to the dirty first.
I would agree.
Ask hard questions for the right reason. You have to tell them why. So how do you gain trust quick? Have rules. Actually make up rules.
Yeah.
Eric experienced this. I told Eric right
Eric
off the
doesn't like
bat.
rules. Eric doesn't like rules.
Rule
I like
number 1,
to break them.
don't steal from me. I'm sorry. Rule number 1, don't lie to me. It's not because of what you think. It's so trivial, right? Of course I'm not going to lie to you. Don't lie to me because I'm a Sagittarius, right? I like to fix problems. If you tell me that this is a problem, your problem, and now I take out my bow and arrow and I'm focusing at a problem that you told me that was your problem, and now I'm trying to aim at a bad problem, a lie. It's a lie. Tell me what your real problem is. If I'm here to help you, tell me what your real problem is.
But pause on that for a second. Most people, founders now, I'm going to dig into this one. Most founders they're so busy trying to go to get, to sell, to make money. They haven't sat down to really understand what the problem is. Like that's the big thing. And it's a journey map. So there's a journey map in the community that I have. And the first thing is identifying the problem. And you don't have to be the expert on the problem. You don't have to like dial it into like the T, but the closer you can get to understanding the problem, when you go to someone and ask for money, when you go to someone and ask for help, when you go to a customer and ask them if they have the problem, whatever, you can speak it clearly. Now, here's a really interesting thing about this, and this gets to, it's the reason why I bring Curtis in here, is because when you have these rules of engagement and you haven't done the work yourself to understand what is your problem that you're trying to solve, what is the thing, who are you, when you actually get into that with others, it comes out. You fumble it through. You aren't as clear. You aren't as crisp. When I engaged with Curtis on a couple of things, he was like, so what are you trying to do? I had 2 years of effort, 180 personal interviews with people that I had already done. I had spoken to 6 manufacturers. I had spoken to 3 design companies. I had already done all that work. So when it came to someone that could actually do something to help me, and I wasn't looking for the help, it just came up in a conversation, I was able to quickly, within 15 seconds, say, this is the problem that I need. And to turn around and have someone say, I can solve that problem. Literally 10 minutes later, phone call, and I'm on the phone with the manufacturer that actually solved the problem. It wasn't because he was so great. It was also because I had done all the work preparing beforehand, so that when I meet the right person, I'm also able to transact in that manner and get something accomplished in that manner. But I show up, and we both show up in that way. And that's a lot of work. That it takes work. It takes effort and work to do that on a personal level, but then definitely as a founder. And a lot of founders just aren't doing that level of due diligence on their own to be prepared. And they're running around trying to get other people to help them solve problems. And it's like, but you got to do some work yourself first. So I didn't mean to digress on that one, but it was just, you said something and I was like, that is so key, that if you don't create no surprises. Bruce said it as well. No surprises. No one likes surprises. Like none of us like surprises when you're engaging with someone. I'm dealing with a contractor. Well, I'm not even going to go there, but it's no one likes surprises when someone can't do what it is that you're expecting them to do. And it's like, well, how else do I engage with you then? Like, I don't know if the baseline, that foundation is not there. I'm now second guessing everything else that I'm doing with you. And that becomes a very faulty relationship to start, whether you're a customer, whether you're an investor, whether you're a co-founder, whether you're a friend. I mean, we can take it into personal life, and it's the same thing. Personal and business still blend very, very well. And so having those things is very key. I'm about to put something in chat, but Curtis, go for it. I didn't mean to interrupt on that. I just,
No,
you
you're
said
good.
something. I was like, yeah. So key.
So obviously, truth will set you free, right? And it's a lot easier to tell the truth the right way every time than to try to cover up lies. And I know that from the past. I know that from my own history, right? So now let's go to rule number 2. Don't steal from me. Here, and what I mean by that is it's more of an ethical aspect, because the thing is, just like you don't need anything from this person. All you needed was the thank you, or for you, not even a thank you. Really, you did it because he deserved it and you knew that you could help him, right? But if I come to Eric and I help him with this one big piece, and this now all of a sudden 5 years from this one seed of not just the seed, but he already had the ground prepped. He just was waiting for that. A good steak dinner, something, or, just give something back. Let people know that you appreciate what they did for you, right? If there's a monetary gain and a real involvement, pay the people in your organizations what they're worth, or find a creative way to make things work with hard work, right? Yeah. If you can't afford to pay somebody, let them know that they cannot afford to
take care of them. Just take care of them.
Just take care of them. Yeah.
Just take care of them. Take care of people, right?
That is so true.
And then the third rule is back to kind of what Susan said, right? It's the third rule is pretty basic. Just know this, that whatever you do or say to me, right? I am not in control of any other human, my kid, my wife, my friends, people I do business with, my customers. I cannot control what they're going to do or say. All I can control, me, Curtis Allison, is how I react to what they do or say, right? Or to that situation. So now at that point, that will determine how I give my time back to that individual. How much time am I going to give them? Because it is what? It's a give and take. It's a friendship. Every customer family, friend, you should try to treat them in such a way. The toxicity, and there's a lot of those people out there. Like I love it. I mean, I wish I had customers in my lifetime. I wish I would have seen the vision. Like, I'm not going to sell to you. You know what? This isn't a right fit. There's two words in the English dictionary I know very well. Yes, Y-E-S, and no, K-N-O-W. I know I shouldn't sell this to you. No, just kidding.
But that's actually really good though. Like, and they're going to so going to pivot into this. So I put it in chat. How do you identify these people? So we're talking about kind of in a broad sense of dealing just interaction. And when it comes to being a founder, interacting, trying to find that ideal person. And I'll answer your question on here, Sammy, about what is the innovative trait. So looking at when you're talking to someone about a new idea, Curtis, you've done this before. So you've done this before. I know Bruce, Jim, we've all done we've done this before. You have a new idea. You don't go find someone that's a Debbie Downer, or someone that doesn't have an imagination at all. Someone that can't so you think about someone that's enthusiastic about life or things in general. You want someone, and when we target, say you want to talk to someone that's a runner and you have a new idea for a shoe. You go find someone that's a runner and you want to say, hey, do you go running often, whatever? And they're just bubbling joy. They went this last trail. They did this last 3K, or they did a half marathon. They're excited. You want to engage with someone like that. Someone that also is yeah, I love my shoes, but, oh wait, but what? But this piece doesn't, and they're already analyzing problems for you before you introduce your idea. Again, a lot of this isn't about your specific thing, but it's understanding the pain points. It gets into the next piece of it as well. Understanding, someone understand pain points. To the question, Sammy, that you asked, and Bruce, I saw you put that in there around innovative traits. Part of it is, and Jim did as well, someone that has patience. And I mentioned that before. The early adopters are people that are super patient with you. They can take a lot of pain from you because they also know that it takes time and effort to develop it. Another thing to look for is their willingness to experiment. So someone that is willing to take something and they're going to run with it to a degree and try to figure it out for you, with you. And they will give you feedback. That goes into one of the things they will provide the feedback for you. Also, they know a little bit about what it is that you're asking them about. They're an average runner, someone that runs, once every blue moon. probably not the person you want to go. I mean, they're an ideal person, but I wouldn't be that wouldn't be the one that I would target if I was trying to launch a new shoe. I would go talk to someone that either runs 10 miles a week, or they're actually training for several marathons, a triathlete, etc. And the reason for this is you want someone that is really like their passion is there, because their passion is going to take them beyond just what you're going to ask them for. And they're going to come back to you with a level of information. This gets into the innovation side of it, but it also just that knowledge around what it is that you're trying to solve. And when we identify people in that place, and this doesn't have to be for a new startup. This could be an existing company that is actually trying to launch a new menu item or a new product in a product line within theirs, or they're trying to add a new service. And these are things that are relevant, because when you start to look at, am I asking the right customer, which comes back to the right user, the right set of questions. Being able to identify who they are helps you to understand the context of the information that they're providing to you. Most time we get information, we hear somebody, we do this with investors all the time. I've done it with an investor. Yeah, I really love this, really think this is great. We should have a follow-up call. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, before, I'm like, oh, this is great. Someone with money loves me. This is great. And I'm like, no, they've never invested in healthcare a day in their life. Like, that's probably not going to get me a check.
Yeah, but you and I have usually the same end goal.
Yes.
But you come to me, so we're friends. So everybody, like, we're friends. We're friends long time. But
Yeah.
Eric comes to me like a kid with a bag full of candy. And I'm like, one at a time, big boy. You know?
It happens.
And I'm not planning to shoot it down, but he has a really good big picture. And I'm also quite a big picture person, but I've been caught in the weeds on a lot of things. And I've had to choose people that I see that they excel in what they're doing, have potential to grow some, and they do everything that I don't want to do. Can I do it? Yes, I can do it. Do I want to do it? No. So I put them in a place, and then I bring them to, well, not now, but previously, bring them up to the next level. I wanted to, if I've got a minute, can I just address Miss Lee? Because she's saying that she has a problem meeting people and either making or nurturing relationships and making sales. I would say it's the other way around. It's not how many people can I meet and make a relationship with. It's like making the relationship solid, and then your leads grow from that. It's not like it's not like how many fish are in the net and how many are more than a pound in weight that I can keep. It's like, let's get the one fish or the two fishes or the three fishes. And then as you grow, you get people to do the things that they do better than you do, that you know how to do. So like bookkeeping, I can go in and do an audit with no problem at all. Do I want to be an auditor? Hell no. But can I walk into a fridge in a business or a bar and figure out what their take is, how much they make, what their staff level is? I mean, I've been out of food service 20 years. Big time, but I can still sit in a restaurant and figure out what their take is and who may be taking. I can still do all of that stuff. It annoys the heck out of my husband at a candlelit dinner, but I'm like, yeah, they're not going to stay in business very long because of this, and this. So it's not about like catching the massive clients and seeing how many you can turn into sales. It's about nurturing.
But it's not. But it's not. Here's something that I heard, and it's a principle that I've operated by for a very long time, which is why, like, for me, self-funding and bootstrapping makes way more sense than anything else, and it's for this simple reason: you shouldn't sell a problem you don't have money to solve. It'll take a minute to kind of think through it. If you don't have the money to solve the problem yourself, meaning understanding it, identifying the pain points, figuring out whose problem it is, figuring out the solution that meets it. If you can't bring that to market yourself in a way, like, not say you go and make manufacturing, but if you can't actually identify that crystal clear and do all the work that it takes to do that, you should not be going around trying to ask anybody for money to try to solve it for you, because there's work that you haven't done to get to the point where someone's willing to pay you for something that you've identified that they need. And as a founder, like, and I say this even on my own personal level, I have a medical device startup. I've said it a couple of times. I'm in a stage now, and there I've had people ask me like, why aren't you going to get VC funding? Like, one, I don't want VC funding because I don't want the strings to come with that. I don't want to have the hit numbers that don't make sense to be successful. I want to solve a problem. And for me, I'm self-funding it. It's going to cost me, I've had the range between 120 to $140,000 to get it done, et cetera. And I can probably dial it in a little bit like lower, but it's a physical product. It's going to cost money to do that and get it manufactured, et cetera. I'm going to self-fund it. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm dialing in exactly what I need, who needs it, how they need it. I need to understand how to sell it, how many people, what's the demand for it. I mean, we talked about this last week with product market fit. Like, I'm doing all of that work. And yeah, it's taking a lot of time. Could I accelerate if someone gave me money? Sure. But now I'm beholden to what someone else wants. I'm beholden to how they want it done and the metrics that they need. And is the problem worth that to me? To me, no. The problem I want to solve is a problem that I want to solve. And I'm not going to go ask someone to pay me to solve it. I mean, some people do that, and that's fine on everybody else. But for me, I found that bootstrapping and actually getting to the point where I can self-fund it means that I'm now getting all the clarity that I need along the path to actually solving the problem in a way that I think makes most sense to the market. And it increases my level of success because I'm not relying upon and having to do things on a monetary level for a transaction just to meet a set of numbers or digits. And that's something that I've learned. Now, not everybody's the same way, totally get it. But for most founders, I would say a lot of founders today, they're running around trying to raise VC funds, and they haven't even done half the work to identify the problem and identify a set of customers that are willing to pay them first for the solution, which means the solution is probably not dialed in as well. And that's another issue as well. And that'll come out in your pitch, that'll come out in your pitch deck, that'll come out when you look at your TAM, that'll come out when you look at your cost to go to market, your customer acquisition cost. Like, I can get into all the little things that are part of doing a startup. That little piece will come out and it will show its ugly head really fast that you haven't quite dialed it in. And those are the things that are really important when it comes to actually, one, getting someone to invest in funding you, is having those things dialed in correctly. Also, being able to get traction. If you haven't asked the right question to the right people, you don't have traction. And if you don't have traction, that's a process and a formula. It's going to be really hard for someone to inject money to see that grow really quickly as well. And so those are things that we in the community, we want to address and help people do and do it better so that people can actually understand the things, the nuances that it takes to do that. Curtis understands traction. He's seen it a lot within what we're doing. And traction is something that I've said this in the last one, product market fit. Traction isn't something that you do once and it's done. It's something that's continual. You're always building traction. You're always getting traction, whether it be finding customers, finding the right investors, finding the right products, like how many people have downloaded your app or how many people have visited your website, how many people clicked on your cart versus actually purchased from your cart. Like these are metrics that all define how you have traction, and then taking a strategy and understanding how to drive that traction. We think about it sales and marketing, but this is all just operating things that founders can do to tweak certain things. How many customers have you talked to? I've talked to 10. All right, that's good traction. We'll get to 100. And in that 100, you'll find out more details and more answers that are so relevant to what you're trying to do as well. So hopefully that does help on some of that with kind of getting to and understanding the type of, I would say, person that you want to interact with and how you interact with them as a founder, like getting the early adopter, understanding who the early adopter is and identifying them and being able to engage with them appropriately to get that information back is hugely important.
So Bruce just said that he's an integrator versus innovator, and
I would
without
agree.
innovators, he's just a guy that knows how to do a bunch of things. And I actively seek out the Bruces in my world, because when I talk to you, Eric, and so I think I've invest heavily into IT. I've got an iPhone, and that's the extent of it. I don't know how it talks to my iPad, but I'm very grateful. And I'm married to an experimental test pilot who just rolls his eyes and takes over. And then Eric comes swooning in and addresses something else. And I'm like, oh, I fixed it. So I know nothing. But I know I know what I want. And so then I need to find the person that I can explain it to. So I went into the Apple store, and he said, I thought he was being clever, but he said, do you know if you downloaded your photographs? Because I can't tell. And I said, well, how'd you get your job? Because I can't tell either, but I thought that's what you did. I didn't realize there was a card that went in here and this went in there and you can back everything up. I had no idea. I was just like, how do you get that job then? I could probably get a job in here. No, I couldn't, because I don't. Do you want the red one or the blue one? That's my level of IT. But Eric comes into town, or when he lived here, and what I said to him was, way before anyone was doing drones, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want an aerial view of our neighborhood and stopping at all the houses that I've sold. And he said, oh, yeah, I could, because that was his excuse to buy a toy. And out he went and came back with the drone. And it's still part of my advertising. And everybody was like, how did you get this done? And they're looking at me like, how did she get that done? I knew what I wanted. I just didn't have a clue how to make it happen. And I'm not as big picture as you, Eric, because I'm not like, you want to go up there and change the world. I just want to make my world comfortable. But that's like the 20-year age group difference or whatever. Whatever. But so the Bruces are the ones that make the Erics
Yeah.
successful.
Yeah. And it is one of the things, like, so I end up switching roles, and Bruce does it as well. And Bruce, I'm going to call you out on this. You're an innovator in some ways, and most of us are in some ways or another. We don't just stick into one. Tanny's done the same thing, where we often, and I would say this even about Curtis. Curtis is an integrator when it comes to doing certain things regarding sales. He's an innovator, or I would say a visionary person when it comes to other parts of the sales, the big picture, et cetera. And there are moments like for Susan, I've actually done this where with the drone video, I took a step back and I was like, I want to create something, but I want to create something that solves a pain point that she has. And I want it to last and be good and do it for a while. And I don't want to have to keep redoing it. So I went in and I just did the best that I could with it. And it still works. And actually no one has done that in the neighborhood since then, which is so weird. Like, there are people that fly drones today, and no one still has done the video quite the way that I've done, which, hey, I like it. But it's one of the things of when you know to a point, when you as a founder know that you have a problem that you need solved, and you identify someone that, again, let's go back to the ideal person you want to talk to. She was like, hey, can you do this? And I was like, I started telling her how to do it. Like, I'm enthusiastic. I have this passion for it. I understand certain things. Like, that becomes the person that you want to kind of latch hold to and be like, all right, this person, they're going to be in my inner circle of customers that I'm going to talk to. They're going to be the ones that I have and I take care of, because they're going to keep giving me feedback. They're going to become loyal to me in a way. And not everyone fits that mold. The person that comes in is like, hey, you know what? I love what you did about this one piece over here that's really bothered me. Like, I don't like this part of it, but if we can address that, we're good and we're golden. And they want to see a solution with you. They want to present a solution back to you and help you get there. That type of customer, that type of person is back on things. They become part of that. And they may not stay there all the time, but people that literally are trying to help you build what you're building better, you want to keep those people and hold on to those people a lot. One way we can do this, and I want to provide this really quick, is a list. So I used to work at Chick-fil-A. I opened up several Chick-fil-A's in my life. It's been fun. And I also applied to be an owner of Chick-fil-A. Long story on that one. But
don't go there.
I wanted to see if I could do it. But the one thing that I learned in the Chick-fil-A culture, and this works even across, like, I've been a manager of McDonald's as well. I've actually been a manager at a couple other restaurants. I've done some things in as far as being a bartender and in working in the kitchen. And I've learned a lot through those processes. But this is applicable to being a founder. You have to listen actively. And I have a list that I've looked at. Like, you have to listen actively when you're trying to engage with customers. The second thing is, if someone gives you feedback, and this is something, Curtis, you've known this even when we're evaluating your website and things, respond promptly. If someone writes a review, respond, thank you. Like, and you see the companies like, all right, let's all go to Google Play Store, Apple Play Store, go look at your favorite app, and then go look at the reviews. This is one of the biggest things that I do when I actually do consulting with a lot of companies and they're trying to grow. I tell them, go look at what your customers have already said. Most people don't do this. And this is where it separates you from other people. Look at your reviews. If you haven't addressed the top 20 reviews that are bad, just as much as the top 20 reviews that are good, you're missing out on feedback from people that actually wanted to give it to you. Engage in a conversation with them. Respond promptly to them. If someone sends in an email and they say they have a complaint, or they send an email and say, I don't understand this thing, respond promptly. Like, those are things that really help to set you apart. Always take the feedback. Now, everything doesn't mean you have to go implement this. Like, you should have a standard of what you're trying to do and also operations, but implement improvements over time. Like, quarterly, you should be looking through your processes. How can I improve this thing? How can I reach out to customers that have purchased from me? How do I actually reach back? Sue does this really well, which is why she sent the cake to her husband's office. She does this really well by reaching out to people and engaging with them and just doing quite follow-ups. I know some people.
But let me just say that the cooking is my therapy, and so I'm extremely selfish, because when I make 40 pound of cranberry relish and everybody thinks I love them because there was a jar left on their doorstep, it was really because I was in negotiation on a really tough contract. And so I put my headset on and make 40 banana breads or 40 pounds of cranberry relish, and I dress those jars up really nice. It's all my advertising, and I go out at the crack of whenever and leave them on doorsteps. And really, it's me filling myself up at the same time as I'm giving. It isn't all.
It's not just transactional. It's not about, it's taking care of yourself and finding those things. So I like to write.
Joining that circle back up of
Yep.
getting myself back to be able to deal with the next day. And just to jump in on what you said, I do have a team. I have a CPA, I have an attorney. I've never been sued for food, and I've never been sued for real estate. And I'm almost 68 years old. So I think that that's kind of successful. And I do have a go-to team that are going to tell me when I'm wrong. I have a go-to team that also are going to tell me when I'm right. But you should never lose that essence of your own direction, because sometimes you can listen to all these people that want something for nothing or want to take advantage. You've just been in that situation, Eric, where someone's embraced you, you've fully given over everything you feel, and that you turn around and they popped up as a new you, and you're like, whoa, I just did their whole business plan for them. Actually, they just taken mine. There you go. How about that? And so never lose direction or control of what it is you want to be, because there's going to be some point where they can't maintain what you're trying to achieve, and you'll go in your own direction. Yeah, you do need people to, like, I'm your this with the crazy ideas, like hold your feet and pull them back down. So you do need, not Debbie Downers, but you do need like reality checks here.
People that keep you honest. And that is so key. I mean, so there's people in your life, you need mentors that represent certain aspects of it. But then also, like, so me and Bruce have had several conversations about the community, Tanny as well, and several others. Jake was on it earlier. And so one of the things that I am doing is actually setting up, I call it like my little board of advisors for the community, specifically on how do we do and build engagement on here. And so I'll ask them, reach out and ask questions and things of that, and wanting to get more engagement and things going. But the thing about that is, like, there are people that hold you kind of in this range, so you aren't just out there like in la la land and you never actually touch down and do anything. But the other side of it is there's different people in that group that also have a set of expertise as well, that enables me to go out and do what I need to do, or they enable me to say, all right, yes, you're heading in the right direction. Yes, that sounds really good. Yeah, go for it. Think about this 1 or 2 things, but definitely keep moving and go for it. And those are things that we can also look for as well. When it comes to, I was thinking about like the right type of customers. Some of the other things that we need to do is also being transparent and rewarding loyalty. And this is the stuff that I think works really well. And sometimes this is just much as just saying thank you to someone when they actually do a really good job. I say, like, when someone digs in, and I've always said this about people that I hire, that I work with, I always reward hard work. You don't know at the beginning, and I do, especially with people that are new, that I haven't quite gauged their level of like involvement. I say, hey, here's a task. I need you to do it. If you do it well and you knock it out the park, I will always dig in and give. And I've always been that way. And it's something that I reward. I don't know what that looks like, but I guarantee you it'll come in and it'll be something to say, thank you for just being genuinely good at what you do. The painter that worked on one of my properties, like, did a phenomenal job. And I mean, like, a phenomenal job. Like, he went above and beyond without being asked. There were things that, I mean, I came in, I was like, wait, you did that? Because why? And but he wanted to be good at what he did. And I paid him what he asked for. And I told him, as soon as this project closes, I'm going to send you something else. And a part of that is just me now taking care of him, because he's also taking care of other friends.
So
And
what
I
happened? So what happened from that? He came and painted my house. I put him in my newsletter. I referred him to 2 neighbors, and he was sitting around worried about his winter, and now he's backed up. So I can't get him back to do my other doors, but whatever. It wasn't all about the money. He was happy with the money. You were happy with him. I know you'll take care of him down the road, but he's very, very true to what he says.
Yeah.
And he's conscientious. To the point that my husband, Eric, will say, my husband does not let anyone in our house, right?
That is true.
And he had been at our house for 3 days, and I had to go somewhere. And he said he would work around me. The painter said he'd work around me. And Jeff said, well, actually, I can let him in remotely. And I was like, okay, that man now has earned not only his trust, but he will talk about him at work. And this is what I'm saying about the organic growth, rather than going around and tapping on people's doors. Do you want a painter? Do you want a painter? Because painters are 10 a penny, as are realtors. They're 10 a penny. But now this guy has got you, me, and several other people talking about our experience with him and the job he did, rather than the fact, if you just want to pay. And we also have a list of people we won't recommend, right, from that transaction?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Several people that I'm actually going to, like, purposely go out of my way to ensure they don't get business because of the damage that they do. And it's not being vindictive, it's just giving feedback so that they can adjust their processes, and so that other people don't run into the same hurdles that I've run into as well. So as we wrap this up really quickly, what are a few tips, if you two could give, to people that are starting a business or that are engaging with customers that you found really helpful with regards to that? And I'll give you a second to think about that. So what are a couple tips that you would give, like, someone that's engaging with the customer or starting a business, things that you found very helpful in your business? And I want to address something that Semi asked really quickly around, what about innovation and disrupting a new start in a new space? How do you balance between getting important information and feedback from users and keeping true to the impact and disruption that you want to make? That's a topic in and of itself. I think one of the ways that you do that with getting important information and feedback is collection is always great. That doesn't mean you have to go and do everything that you collect. A mentor told me once, think about it like a chicken wing or a chicken leg. It has chicken and it is a bone. Like, it's up to us to determine which part is chicken that we eat and the bone we discard or throw away. As a founder, it's actually our role to be very good at determining what's chicken and what's bone. And we do this all the time with things that we're dealing with. And that's one of the easiest ways to think about the feedback that you're getting and staying true to the disruption. The other piece of it is also understanding what or how the disruption can be applied, because just because there's one way or one method of entry into market doesn't mean that that's the only way that you can do it. And you can also pivot and grow over time as you continue to improve upon that disruption that you're doing as well. And so those are 2 ways that I would think that, one, it's on us as founders to be good at understanding what we want to do, and then weeding through the noise to figure out the feedback, the information, the insight that we get. How do we take that and apply that so that we can keep moving forward and doing the thing we want to do? And secondly, also just understanding starting small doesn't mean that that's where you're going to end, but starting small is always a good place to begin. so that you can have an ending. Most people don't start because they're trying to be too big. And oftentimes so big, you can't get off the ground. But start small, getting something going, you can iterate. And we know plenty of examples today. We look out across the industries, plenty of examples today that are big, but we don't know how they started, or a lot of times we don't remember how they started. And most people, I'll say 99% of the people that are out here big today always started small. So that's just something to keep in mind there. But so tips for founders. Let's do it. What do you have? Or people that are running businesses today? What is your good tips that you have?
I'm oh man. Most people that start companies and smaller companies start that company because they get sick and tired of making all the money for their boss, right? Okay, so that's usually the shoe-in why most people go to work for themselves. So now, you don't agree with that, Susan?
I'm unemployable.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, like, I went, yeah, for me, in my, when I was 19, 20, 21, I'm like,
I was still
No.
unemployable.
yeah, yeah. But what I mean by that is so then you jump in, and I am the poster child, and Eric knows this now, that on my enthusiasm, my look for good products and building natural relationships on accident. Yes, some good people came in my life, but I just worked. And so even though I have this big company, now that I'm not in the mix every day, I'm realizing, wow, I did not spend any time in the mirror other than when I was brushing my teeth. And you really need to take more time every day sitting in front of that mirror to not just know what these are, the good things you do, but really to figure out what these are. And I hid from a lot of these things. Now through Eric's help and I've got a freaking army that I've met in this tech world that love me, and because I've helped them and they help me. And so now I'm learning how to use technology. Take that. It's so important in your early career to take that time. Don't just work. Think, process, build processes, please. The McDonald's, I don't have processes. Eric and I are fixing these processes. We have great culture, right? Naturally, but how do you take that culture from a nucleus of a small group and embed that into the other people or the technology to share that process so you can build it to sell it? Because you don't want to work for the rest of your life. Build something worth building that someone else wants. And I think it's hard at 26 years in, starting back at zero on some of these things down here. It's okay because I got this. We got to push it up, and that's what I'm building on my personal level. In that, and don't be afraid of technology, or at least get an Eric. Get an Eric. Get somebody in your life.
I got the phone, man. I got the phone.
Yeah, don't get with it. So is that enough, Eric? Is there
I appreciate that, and there's some definite nuggets in there. And Sue, I'll let you go, and then we'll wrap it up.
I don't know that I can offer much in here. Every business I've started has been out of desperation. I was living on the streets in my teens. I went to college on my own dime, on my own speed. I had to leave behind like everything that was familiar to me. And being a Navy spouse, there is never a constant other than change. Change is a constant. So you have to come to a point, I had to come to a point, may not be the same for everybody else, where you realize the only thing that is stable or is me. And so who do I want to be? What do I want to be? How do I want to be this? Every business I've started before I was a Navy wife was as a single person with nowhere to live. That's a hard startup. That's a pretty hard startup. But the only way to go is down. So you figure it out. I don't know if we're missing a chromosome or we've got an extra chromosome, but that drive, when you look at people, and I'm not including myself here, but when you look at people that are super successful, I never saw anything other than the goal. I never saw anything other than where I wanted to go. And I had to figure out how to get there. And I have friends from 40, 50 years ago who find that my drive is either to be admired or is not healthy. But I just see it as seeing opportunity in everything. Eric and I will sit places and we'll talk about stuff and where it could go and how you would do this. My son and I do this all the time. But when I was in not this country, but I was in a country where I didn't speak the language. And so I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I'm going to open a restaurant of my own food. And will they come? Of course they'll come. And did they come? Yes, they came, to a point where I was like maxed out. But I've always done stuff from a place of desperation, which is not healthy for business. And my biggest thing in my 50s was understanding I can say no. And that's, Eric talks to me about that all the time. Why are you doing this for free? Because I can. Why are you doing this? Because when you say it's one of those things you do without thinking, yes, there's a lot of stuff like I'll break down for someone. When they ask me, if it's with Eric, it's not when he asks me, I will break down for them where they're going wrong. And Eric won't have asked me. And I'm like, yeah, this doesn't make any sense at all, mate. No sense at all. Now, I'm not offended that he still goes in his direction. I would be offended if I didn't have the opportunity to tell him where I thought he was going wrong. And in some places, I'm not saying you've done a U-turn, but we've come back and regrouped and we've started again from where we're going, and we've got there, right? That's what I think. And so for me, when you say dealing with this stuff now, I'm not going to ask you how old you are, but if you don't deal with this stuff now, because you're up here, you could easily whitewash all of this stuff down here. But if you don't deal with this, it doesn't give you business peace. It doesn't give you personal peace. It doesn't give you a self of whole. It doesn't give you complete, as in whole, because those are the things, those were your desperation.
Yeah.
So even though you're up here, I mean, if you go into my office and ask about me, they'll say, is she a new agent or is she this? I don't know her name because they just got in the business or whatever. And I don't have billboards. I don't have, you won't see my face anywhere. You're not going to look at me and buy a house. That's just the way it is. And they'll say, yeah, you need to either talk to her or don't, she'll wrap you up she'll wrap you up and tie a knot. In other words, not like don't cross me, but I know what I do. I know what I do and I know how I do it. And I'm probably easing out of that into retirement because, I don't want to play the game anymore. But did I go back and address all the things you're talking about? The things that were in my life that I needed to address, yeah. And Eric and I, because I wrote a transcript for a book about all of that, and Eric's like, don't leave it sitting there and not publish it. Just give it away. Let's read it. Let's talk about it. Let's work on this, because someone else in your position will learn from one of those things that you're now delving into. And let me tell you, if you think that they're big, ugly demons, let me tell you, now you're where you are, you'll be surprised when you go back and open it up. They're not at all. And how easily you can change just a few tiny things in your life. You know this, Eric, we've gone through all of this together, and how those things can now take you to the next level without you even knowing it. Because once you take that out and you learn from it and you fix it, or you amend it, that might be the better word, you'll be amazed how much it gives you clarity. And that's all I can say. That's not the question you asked me, but I didn't get into business. I didn't get into business because I wanted to be a business owner. I had 2 children. I was a single parent and I needed to feed them, and nobody could pay me the sort of money I needed that allowed me to take my kids with me. So I opened a restaurant.
And then I think like in wrapping it up, and I appreciate it, and that was a good perspective to offer. Um, when looking at it, the thing that we're saying now is that as a person, because at the end of the day, founder or not, successful or not, you're still a human being. And taking care of yourself as a human, Curtis mentioned it as well, and I put it in there. Knowing when to work on your business versus working in your business. A lot of times as startups, we work so much in it. We're in the grind all the time that we don't take a step back to figure out where are we at in the process. So working on it versus in it, and even for established businesses, there are oftentimes where we have to do this. The other part is knowing when to work on you versus to work for others. And oftentimes we're so busy trying to do stuff for other people that we don't take that kind of R&R, and we don't sit back and we don't do the thing to take care of ourselves. And that's something that's who what you're mentioning on, like actually like looking back over it and saying, all right, this is what I've seen, this is what I've learned. Have I really learned that lesson? How has that lesson transformed me? How am I operating now differently than what I was before? Have I engaged with the first 5 customers? Have I asked the right questions? Have I done those things? And has that actually transformed the next set of things that I'm doing? Has it helped me to inform asking a different question of the next 5 people that I interact with, et cetera? And those are things that are hugely important because they help guide the process of how we continually improve and grow over time. And that's something that I think is really important for us to do. So definitely
I'd like to
appreciate.
connect with Curtis at some point. That your demeanor has changed dramatically. So are you just thinking, is all this stuff sifting in? Is it just like,
No. I'm just engaging in the conversation, listening to the two of you, and the relationship that both of you have, and the understanding that you both have together. I'm studying. I'm very much studying how the two of you interact. And
well, how long have we known each other, Eric? About 12 years?
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah. Yeah,
And we,
and through a lot of different things, even like trying to take over HOA and everything else. There were some things
with
potentially
the
running
war,
for city council.
and we're very different people than
Yeah,
12 years ago.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yep.
And
So and it's something.
even though he's told me you should be doing this, you should be doing that, and I've told him what the hell are you thinking, doing this, doing that, and that's exactly the way I've put it. Even though that we've always come back, it might be a day, it might be a week, it might be 6 months, and we're back right to where we were.
yeah, that's friendship.
In the last conversation, it comes from a point of like, are you? First thing is like, I haven't heard from you. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Always.
Yep. Yeah.
And if he says no, tell me about it. And if I say no, he says, tell me about it. To the point that I might walk 3 or 4 miles one evening around and around the lake in the dark. And then I hear him, unfortunately, do a podcast about this wise old lady. And I'm trying to figure out who he's talking about. And then I listen more and I'm like, he's talking about me. I'm going to slap him. But anyway, yeah, we're friends. We're friends.
No, it's good, but again, this is
Don't be
also like
laughing, Eric. You know you
I
did
yeah,
that.
I know this is bad. No, but the thing that I want to say, like, this is what community looks like. This is what it's like to have people in your life, mentors in your life in different ways as well, that can help you, that are experts in their own ways. So for all of us that are here, I hope you have people in your life that are similar. I'm very fortunate and I'm grateful to have people like Sue and Curtis and even Bruce. We catch up every now and then, and I got to catch up with you again. And Tanny, I know we've kind of built up, and we started talking a couple times as well. And there's several others in here. I saw some other names that popped up, people that I've met along the way, Mario, Dean, Chris, like Christy, Jim. Like there's people in here, and I appreciate you all. And there's people in your lives that are trying to do the same things. And the hope is that through these sessions, one, we just learn more about how to be better at what we're doing as founders, service providers, or investors even. But the other side of it is that we also be better at being human, interacting with each other as well as we go through life. And if we can bring those two together, we can probably accelerate getting someone to market, someone that's in market, in better place in market, then also maybe even help someone exit so that we can enjoy doing the things that we really want to do, which is interacting with each other well. So greatly appreciate it. I know we're over. I have an announcement. I will put it in as a blog as well. So yeah, and Curtis, we'll get his information in as well. People want to reach out to him for what he does. There are some things that we're doing on our as a project around finding the ideal customer. I didn't get to mention that. I'll put it in as a blog in the community. That is a program that I am going to start up. I'm going to take 10 people, 10 founders, and within 2 weeks, we want to run through a set of sessions on how we can actually help you find the ideal customers. And there will be some engagement and involvement around the community with that. So definitely be looking forward to that. But I appreciate you all. I hope that everyone learned something from it. I did. As with the last one, I will post a longer blog on this as well. It will be in the section called past recordings, so you can find it there. But really do appreciate it. Bring someone else into the community as well, because we all know someone that's trying to do something in business or with an idea, whatever. This is a place where they can learn how to actually vet that out and get to the right product market fit faster. And so those are the things that we're dialing in on. Also, do note there's a session tomorrow morning with Christine on LinkedIn Live. So that's in the community. And then I'll be posting in. Mark is also doing his normal kind of pitch events as well. We'll have some pitch things coming. Free pitch reviews are here in the community as well. Mario, I have your feedback coming. So definitely be looking forward to that. But appreciate you all. Really grateful that you're here and look forward to seeing you next week in office hours. All right. Take care. Y'all be good.